Hey everybody, Carm here, back for another video. I hope you're all doing well. I'm doing pretty good here. I guess this video in a way is kind of an extension of the previous one I did as far as a few of the things that I showed. I think I mentioned last time there's a shop in the neighborhood. This is what it's called, Real Art. I referred to it as kind of a novelty shop. I'd say it's really more of like, it's basically collectibles. Various kinds of movie memorabilia, some things with sports, some things with television, lots of comic books, various themes. It's a really neat place. I think it opened up about maybe a year and a half to 2 years ago, and up until recently, or just recently, I saw they started carrying records. They did have some initially, but they were towards the back and there were just like a few soundtracks. Fairly expensive for what I could see. So I found a greater variety this time and a lot of stuff I don't normally have in my own collection. Give you an idea of what else they have. It's toys. Lots of Star Wars stuff, lots of sci-fi in general, Star Trek, and all that sort of thing. These are fun. A lot of nostalgia too if you're into that. There's a whole lot of that. It goes back to the 60s and even 50s, like B-movie type stuff. There's magazines, Cinefantastique. I have a whole bunch of these, a couple of racks full of them, and many of them vintage. These are from early to mid 80s. This one's from 85. Remember Starman there. The Dark Crystal, Jim Henson, of course. Of course, movies themselves. Kingdom of the Spiders. Still haven't watched this one yet. Lots of VHS. So if you like the older formats, they have a lot of that. Television programs. X-Files. I'm sure many of you remember that. This is always a show I enjoyed. Posters. A bunch of rock concert posters like this. Freak Out. Good old Mothers of Invention. Obviously this is a replica, for it only cost 10 bucks. You can only imagine what the original cost. I saw quite a few of these there. And now the records. Yeah, as I said, I found a lot of stuff that I don't normally find or normally have in my own collection, but found them all in one place. And, many of these will undoubtedly be recognizable. Of course, McCartney, Paul McCartney. I believe this was his first solo album. It was pretty nice. I hadn't heard this particular one before. There's the song Maybe I'm Amazed. Of course, you know, like so many of his solo work as well as the Beatles, it's kind of ubiquitous. You hear it everywhere. And I really like the raw, fairly experimental quality of this record. Actually, I was kind of influenced to get this from a VC member who had left for a while, and was glad to see came back to make videos. Shannon Lightbreeze 55 did a couple of really nice videos on McCartney, and I was compelled from seeing them. If I had seen his work for a reasonable price, I'd pick something up, and I actually picked up Ram a while ago and enjoyed it. It was pretty good. So gradually adding to my collection of I don't have much mainstream music in my collection anyway, but part of the VC is I'm learning to appreciate music other than, I've always been in kind of a narrow realm for the last 20 odd years, so gradually I'm kind of branching out into music that's more well known. Of course, I grew up hearing the Beatles, you know, from my folks, and always had an appreciation for it, so it's nice to branch out a little more. Scriabin, Rimsky-Korsakov and Dvorak, Home of Ecstasy, conducted by Stokowski. That was part of the attraction of this album, was besides the colorful and rather provocative cover art, is Stokowski himself, the conductor. I always like the music that he conducts. his interpretation of it, I always thought had kind of a Mysterioso quality. Definitely has that here. Songs of the Humpback Whale. This is a record I've been looking for quite some time. Dr. Roger Payne on Capitol in 1970. I had been hearing of it for quite a while, and while I have music with whale songs on it, it was nice to find the original. And they're quite beautiful, the sounds of the whales. I mean, there definitely is an interplay, and the tones of their calls are very, very distinctive. And yeah, this is the original right here. So I was real pleased to find this. Zither Magic by Ruth Welcome. Hadn't heard a lot of zither music outside of the experimental realm, which is normally what I'm into. This is fairly straight ahead stuff, like a lot of standards. And thinking about this cover, if I had been doing videos a few weeks earlier, I could have entered this into Colin's Halloween contest. Maybe it could have qualified. You know, The Witch and the Cauldron, and it's pretty decent for background music. If you can see some of the songs there. Fairly straightforwardly interpreted, but it was something different that I hadn't had. I guess this would be called maybe lounge or exotica, if one's gonna put a tag on it. 633 Squadron, not a film I was familiar with. Ron Goodwin, the composer, and it's pretty decent. You know, pretty good. You know, kind of what you would expect with like a war film music. A lot of brass, but it's pretty nice stuff. And again, not something I normally have. This soundtrack from this vintage. Couldn't resist this one. Paul McCartney, of course, and one of my early musical heroes, Stevie Wonder. I've liked him since I was a little kid, and I don't think I'd heard this song, Ebony and Ivory, since probably around the time it came out. It was 82 or 83 was probably the last time I actually really heard it. And the B-side is Rain Clouds. So yeah, it was pretty fun to find. Another soundtrack, film Nighthawks. It's another film I liked as a kid. Keith Emerson. Pull out the insert here. I don't think I've seen this in probably almost as long too, in the early 80s. So the various stars of the film. Sylvester Stallone, Billy D. Williams, Rutger Hauer, Lindsay Wagner. Of course, the man himself, Emerson. It's pretty good. Some nice electronic stuff on here, actually, like with the Fairlight computer music instrument. Some early sampling instrument. So this is quite a bit of fun. Oh, that's one of my kitty cats, the little guy. May see him eventually, although he's a little skittish sometimes. 25 action years. This is basically like a little history of the NBA in some ways. There's commentary, play-by-play commentary, and just narration of a lot of the history of the game. Basketball wouldn't say it's my favorite sport. It's really my only sport, the only one I was ever really interested in. So I was pretty happy to find this. And it doesn't give a year, but I'm assuming it's from 25 years after. I believe the league started in 46, 47. So yeah, it's pretty nice. This is a nice surprise. Raiders of the Lost Ark, the movie on record. I wasn't aware of this, only the regular standard soundtrack, but this is actually what it says. Actual dialogue, music, and sound effects. It's basically just the audio of the movie, not the entire film. It does go in sequence, but it's about maybe 50 to 55 minutes of the actual film. And yeah, it was really nice to find. Really good shape. It has some booklets on the inside. Just pardon a little bit of glare there. Harrison Ford. This was, most of the LPs were $2. This was a little more, but well worth it. Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom. The record is actually just the first film, Raiders of the Lost Ark, but they had this included. So this was nice to find. Different kind of soundtrack. And finally, you can probably hear it in the background. Turn it up a bit. See if you recognize this. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Jack Nicholson. A film I hadn't seen in quite a while. I remember another one I really liked as a kid. I'd forgotten how much variety there is in the music. There's kind of like a Hawaiian guitar thing to it. The various characters of the film. So yeah, this was nice to find. I think that's it for the records. It was again a lot of fun finding these. Finding all these in one spot. I like soundtracks, and I like what's known as, you could say novelty records, but to find them all at once was really a treat. But that's the kind of place this particular shop is, Real Art. I don't know if there's any others around. I mean, this one's been in the neighborhood for a short time. Let me see their website on here, realartstore.com. I don't know if that shows up. Probably check it out, and I think there's promotional stuff they do for other, like Comic-Con and those kinds of things throughout the country. And they kind of advertise for that. But yeah, I'd recommend checking out their site, and if you're ever in the Chicago area, it's a place to check out. It's a place, being that it is so close by the house, I have to be careful not to go there too often, because a lot of temptation in there, a lot of fun stuff to see, especially if you're nostalgic and into the old, a lot of the stuff's from my own generation, the films, the late 70s, early 80s, again, Star Wars and all that, so yeah, it was fun to find. Well, I think that'll do it for this time out. I hope you're all doing well, and for the next time, I do have some more recent finds. There's about a half a dozen records I found in one spot, this one place on the north side of town. I was really excited to find, so I think I'll do that in an upcoming video. And I still have a lot of forgotten and revisited finds I've been just going through, trying to organize my collection. So, well, until next time, everybody, take care, and I'll see you all then.